Well, hello, and welcome to ILoveGay today. And we are in Austin, Texas today, and we are here with Luis and Hans with the Sunday Afternoon Project. How are you both?
We
Good,
are
thank
doing
you.
great. What about you?
Hanging in there, hanging in there. It's been a crazy week, but we're making it all work.
That's all you can ask for.
But especially because everything that's been a crazy week and all the things that you and I stay in touch, it's always been very strongly on social media, and for you and I, a lot of it has been LinkedIn. And I've loved seeing, especially during South by Southwest and so forth, I've loved seeing some of the content you've been putting out with the Sunday Afternoon Project. But I guess before we even talk about all that, tell us a little bit about what it's all about.
Well, Sunday Afternoon Project is a nonprofit, and it started from the very idea that started with our old our former business, a cookie company, where we found that we used to say that the foods we share tell the stories of who we are, and by openly and fearlessly sharing our stories, we create safe spaces for others to share theirs. And what we realize is that the cookies you are just one of the things that you can share. So it's everything that we share with the world tells the story of who we are. So out of that, we started looking like, okay, if we're looking at safe spaces, which was our quest when we moved from Guatemala to Austin, we figured, how else can we do this? So we started like asking those questions, like, what is it that keeps us from creating space for others? And what we found was that the conversation is a very hard conversation to have. So what we landed is, okay, we want to have it, but how do you do that? And we figure, okay, maybe the best way is to kind of bake the broccoli into the brownies.
Yeah.
So instead of talking, hey, what do you think about diversity, which is a very difficult conversation and a very awkward conversation to have with a stranger.
Some people are even afraid of it
Yeah,
because they don't want to get
yeah, people
canceled.
are
So
terrified.
it's yeah.
So what's happened, what we started asking is like, why don't we talk about creativity while we talk about curiosity? So we're not talking about diversity as much as we're talking about discovery, because a lot of the time the thing that keeps us from opening space for people who are different than us is that we don't understand them, which is normal.
Yeah.
So the best way is, okay, let's learn to ask the questions.
Yeah.
And that's what became the Sunday Afternoon Project. So we developed a framework called fearless storytelling, which is about how you ask yourself the questions, because sometimes we don't even ask ourselves. And then when you learn how complicated the answers to those questions are, hopefully that will allow you to extend the same grace to others and understand, oh, this person is just as complex and as whole a person as I am.
Yeah.
They, they just in foreign because they're far and they're different than I am. But there's a lot for me to also enrich myself by learning more about these people.
Yeah.
And that will hopefully will make for a better world.
I love hearing all that. And it's interesting too, because, what has it been? Almost like 15 years where the rise and the development of social media, going from MySpace to Facebook to where it's at today, has really made all of us in some way storytellers, where
Yeah.
we do have a story to tell. We just may not always know it. And we have all these
Yeah.
different platforms to tell the story in a different way. And that's what I've noticed, that I feel like you guys are very good at that, being able to kind of morph the story and the project into being able to be on the right platforms in the right way.
Yeah, what I really like is that we compare it to the coming out process when you're coming out.
Yeah.
Uh because the storytelling is the end. That's the goal. That's the last step. But
By the
not
time
a
you're
lot of people,
storytelling, it's
yeah.
out there.
Yeah, but not a lot of people they think about how you get there. And that, we use the example as when we were coming out. First, you internalize it. You start figuring it out and you have conversations with yourself. It's like I'm not as everybody or as much as most of the people that I know. What is this? And then you're like, oh, okay, I'm gay. So
Exactly.
you start testing the waters is the second step with your like close circle.
And
Like
sometimes
you
we
start
don't.
testing the waters with your friends, with your family, and then like, hey guys, and having those conversations. Once you start feeling comfortable, then you're ready to share it with the world. And that's the storytelling. But once
And
you put it out there, it's no longer yours. It's like it's out there,
it's who
everybody
you
knows
are.
it. So you have to be very mindful of the steps before,
Mhm.
because of course we all make mistakes, but once it's out there, once the tweet is there, once you put it on Facebook, it stays
Yeah.
there forever. Even if you delete it, there's someone that saw it and screenshot the whole thing.
Yeah, and the power of that is that if you are purposeful and conscious about all of these steps, This is obviously in the case of our experience as gay men. At some point, you just stop coming out.
Yeah.
You are just a gay person and you just live your life. That is the storytelling that you want. When you are no longer self-conscious because you have really come to understand who you are. And that's what you are showing the world. A very thoughtful, it is a construction because it's always, you never get to show every single facet of yourself, but it's a thoughtful, authentic construction. So you're no longer thinking all the time and looking behind your back to see what am I missing, what am I not saying. Like you're not like Mr. Ripley running away from the truth. You just are.
Yeah.
And more powerful, like the most powerful thing about storytelling is that for us, for example, when we were growing up, we didn't have role models as gay men. So even the word that we use or that we refer to gay was homosexual.
If they were
And
being
it
nice.
was very related to saying pedophile, a sex addict, or so it was always negative. But now we see like we have Tim Cook as a CEO of one of the major companies out there. And so those stories they need to be told so we see that what we can achieve, because what we say in our case being gay, but I'm sure that a lot of women they start self-selecting themselves out because they're like, I'm never going to be a CEO of a huge company.
I'm not even gonna
But
try.
turns out that there's someone that is making it happen. But if we have that person to share her story, then a lot of people start seeing the possibilities that are out there. So for us, storytelling is like the main core.
Yeah, and all of this seems very obvious, like when you're talking about it in theory. But what we have seen that happens a lot is that it's very similar to how intergenerational trauma works. What happens with people who overcome adversity is that once they're on the other side, they kind of see, oh, this wasn't that hard. I could do it, everyone else should. Instead of, and many times it's hard for them to look back, to come to terms with the difficulties and say, because we tend to minimize it. Like when we are presented with discussions about adverse circumstances, we say, "Oh, it wasn't that bad." When in reality, yes, it was. You don't want to come across as complaining, but it was that bad, and we don't talk about that because it's a form of protecting ourselves. Like we totally get why that happens, but the point is, we need to be conscious of the power that it has to talk about it. So, is we share your story to become role models, and we share our story so we never forget where we came from.
Yeah. Well, going back to what we talked about with South by Southwest, what I saw was that you were there really helping a lot of other people kind of tell their story across a common theme. And was that almost like one of the first like coming out of Sunday Afternoon Project in an event that big?
It was, this year we had two huge opportunities. We partnered up with the United Nations for World Logic Day here in Austin, and then we partnered up with South by Southwest. And the main goal on both major events, we had access to interview the speakers and the talent that were coming, but we wanted to get to know them for who they were and not for what they do,
Yeah.
humanizing the events. And I cannot tell you, like we were doing red carpet, like it was ridiculous. We met Brian Gosling. It was like wow. But we made these interviews on the red carpet where everybody is asking them about the movie, about the character, same questions.
The
Then
publicist
they,
behind them.
yeah, and then they got to us, and we were like, creativity, for example, like we want to get to know you, and what from one of the what's the thing that you have created that you're the most proud of. And the first thing that they said was like, oh, this movie. I'm like, no, 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 like let's leave this movie behind, like we want to get to know you. And it took them by surprise, but it was, their reaction was like, wow, like I need to remove this chip of something that I'm always talking about, and I need to get in touch with myself. And we had someone like Dan Stevens, that he was on Downton Abbey, and he was the Beast on the Beauty and the Beast. He came back after the interview running, and he was like, guys, that was a beautiful interview. Instead of watching my world premiere movie, I'm going to be thinking about these questions because I haven't connected with myself in a long time.
Yeah.
So it's something that we forget. So
Nice.
I think that's the power of that. And telling those stories, seeing them not for celebrities, for this major speaker, like humanizing them, because at the end of the day, we're all humans.
Yeah. Yeah. But then you put all that together. You've got a workshop now going, right? Fearless Storytelling Workshop. So it sounds like you're really moving along, moving that needle forward as far as helping people.
Hopefully.
No, yeah, and this one it's more focused on companies. The reason why is because we believe that people that are working in larger companies, they are in a position of privilege.
Yeah.
And we can say, like, we can ask for all the minorities to share their stories, but if they don't have people to listen, then it's pointless.
Yeah.
So what we want to do and what we intend with this workshop is that we give the tools for them to build their stories on the steps that we were talking about, but also to listen back because they are the role models, they are the leaders. So people will follow them.
Yeah.
So that's the whole intention with that. We had not other than Google to be
Yeah.
uh our first big company that believed in us. So that opened the door to many partnerships.
Wow. Well, I look forward to seeing where all that goes, and especially when I post this, I am going to make sure that they can find you, whether it was through Facebook or Instagram and so forth, because I noticed that you were doing a great job of just kind of posting all across the board.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Everything is Sunday Afternoon Project,
Yep.
Instagram, Facebook, on LinkedIn. Yeah. But yeah, that would be amazing. Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much for taking a few moments of your time and sharing a bit of your story with our audience, and look forward to seeing you in the real world soon too.
Yeah, there's always times for you, for sure.
Thanks. Thanks again now.
Thank you.
So good.